Good morning, and thank you all for coming to Chennai for this last event in this 10-city tour. I want to thank NASSCOM for doing this, not just as one event in one city, but doing it around the country. I have often said, from a political perspective, from a governance perspective, that India cannot grow because of one city's success, one state's success, especially where we are today in the demographic trends of our youth relative to the global population. Unless we are able to get the average productivity of our youth across all states significantly higher, we cannot see the kind of growth that China saw for 2 decades. China's growth was driven by capital. Our growth will have to be driven by human capital. And to do that, we need to really have all engines, all cylinders of all engines firing. Of course, it makes a big difference, and I'll come to that in a minute. But in any event, I'm glad that 2 of the 10 cities were Coimbatore and Chennai, and that you've come here right after you finished in Coimbatore. Coimbatore holds a special place also for us, as I'll mention in a minute. But I think this 2025 version comes at a very interesting point. On the one hand, we are seeing the services economy continue to become a larger and larger share of our total Indian GDP. The latest Niti Aayog report of October 2025 says services now contribute 55% of national GVA. On the other hand, we are starting to see the adoption of AI, automation, agentic AI, generative AI, at levels we have never seen before because of the access to large pools of data, on-demand computing power through cloud, and innovation that can be led by 2 people, 3 people, 5 people in very narrow niche applications and then be scaled around the world because of greater and greater internet connectivity. In that sense, Tamil Nadu, of course, is, as always, in a very unique place. We are the 3rd largest contributor overall to national GVA, about 8.8%, and roughly about the same in services, maybe slightly lower because we have a more balanced economy than most. We are also significantly a manufacturing economy, particularly in automobiles, in textiles, in other fields, and also a significant agricultural economy. But unlike other states where IT is probably the biggest driver, like Telangana or Karnataka, here we have a broader mix. And yet we focus a lot on technology because we see it as the future. I don't know if many of you subscribe to The Economist magazine. I've been reading it now for about 30 years. And there was a very interesting article for which I had been interviewed twice. Sometimes it's rare to be interviewed once, and this time twice. And it was an article that looked at the secrets for success in India, and in particular it compared Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, and that had been actually my suggestion. I said, if you want to look at how to build world-class economies, you look at Gujarat and Tamil Nadu because from a per capita GDP, they're roughly the same. And yet the social structure and the components of our GDP could not be more different. And fair enough, about 10 days later, the journalists met me again, and this time they had the data, and what they've covered in the article is that the profound difference is that in Tamil Nadu, it has mostly been driven by human capital with very little subsidy, with very little union government money, with very little extra infrastructure push in ports or roads. We have done well, but it's our own money. Whereas in Gujarat, the bulk of this transformation has come in the last 10 or 15 years and is done through capital. And yet, the article concludes that if you had to pick one of the 2 models, the Tamil Nadu model is more sustainable. It's also longer and harder to build. And that's because even 85% of our girls graduate high school, whereas in Gujarat, 50% of boys and girls do not graduate high school. So your weighted average productivity is greatly constrained. And it goes on to show that the principles of social justice, of equity, of education for all, of inclusion, actually builds a stronger, more resilient workforce. And in fact, if I go one step further, the great luxury of that is the two inflection points of Tamil Nadu's growth. One, after liberalization in the 1990s, and two, after the China plus one trade post the GFC and COVID. Both of these have been because we have benefited from global trends moving towards India, and because of our workforce, because of inclusion, because of equitable access, we have been able to really capitalize on this. In fact, as you all know, for the first time in many years, and the only state in the country, last year we clocked 11.19% in real GDP growth, only state with double-digit real GDP growth. And a lot of that came on the back of manufacturing. In fact, though India's exports grew only about 45% in the last 4 years in electronic goods, Tamil Nadu's grew 700%. And our total exports have grown in the last 4 years from 26 to 52 billion, doubled. And out of that, 14.6 billion comes from electronics goods alone. 41% of India's total electronics exports now comes from from Tamil Nadu. And the bulk of that is because of this shift away from the assembly of high-end mobile and digital devices out of China. On the other hand, we have not neglected our innovation ecosystem because we see the future is less and less large employers doing relatively mundane services in the IT sector, and more innovation and startups, and a defragmentation, if you will, that had happened for many years, or agglomeration, is now reversing all over the world. And you're going to see fragmentation and more small companies and innovators get the jump. Some of that is regulatory. We have seen huge consolidation into monopolies and oligopolies around the world, and therefore the regulators are finally waking up and saying this cannot be so. Some of it is that it's harder and harder to be at the cutting edge of innovation if you are so large, unless you use unfair practices of capital deployment and scale resources. In Tamil Nadu in the last 4 years, the number of registered startups has gone up from under 3,000 to over 12,000, and their valuations have gone up from a total of around 3 billion to over 27 billion, all in these 4 years. These registered startups have now raised over $4 billion in cumulative funding, and particularly Chennai and Coimbatore are fast emerging as great innovation hubs in the space of payments, in AI, in more emerging deep tech. I've just returned myself from Coimbatore. I was there on Friday or Saturday, and inaugurated our 4th deep tech innovation hub in Tamil Nadu. We started with one in Chennai about 3 years ago. I wrote the financing for it when I was finance minister. Then we opened it when I was IT minister. And as promised, we have now set up 3 more of them, one in Trichy, one in Madurai, and now one in Coimbatore. And I was just blown away at the startups and the kinds of applications and products that they're building. They're not doing it necessarily for a large global market. They're doing it for the daily problems of our cities, our society, our agriculture, our green energy, and our quality of life. And this innovation, because it is led by the need of the local community, is hugely impactful on every aspect of our life and is likely to be sustained and successful. And as I started from this very hotel about 4 years ago as finance minister, that the government itself should be a buyer of these services, a validator of these technologies, and an investor in these companies, because the government is a natural provider of public goods and services which are greatly enhanced by these innovations. We have always been at the forefront of engineering and research. As you know, about 20% of India's engineering talent graduates out of Tamil Nadu every year. We have been the #1 state for patent filing, probably as far back as I can look. Last year, that was about 9,700 plus patents. And what we have done, therefore, is try and bring together all these resources, the intellectual capital, with the power of the state to provide financing, and the hand-holding, mentoring, incubation, and additional support that can help startups to really make an impact. On this talent base, in the last, let's say, 3 years that I've been IT minister, we have focused a lot on bringing conferences. We just did the Game Developers Conference for the first time in India, first time in Tamil Nadu. It's 17 years in India. It's never come to Tamil Nadu before. It was always Pune or Hyderabad. We showed them the potential of Tamil Nadu, and they came here for the first time. We have run an annual conference now called Imagine for 3 years, and we're now going to do it for the 4th year with huge international participation, exposure, including many NRIs who have gone and done really well in other parts of the world and built companies worth hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. They come and they teach our youth what it takes to be successful. And our Tanfinet project, which is about to be completed, we ran the trial run for the Chief Minister's Gram Panchayat Sabhas, where we're connecting 12,500 villages on a 1 gig backbone, and we'll provide services at the house, at the door, in every one of these villages for either 199 rupees a month or 299 rupees a month at 100 Mbps or higher speeds. We want to make sure that everybody gets access to the information, the knowledge, particularly the video content that is so helpful in learning. And our social justice and inclusion continues in the era of technology and internet. In the 23-24 budget, I announced a couple of major innovations. One is an AI Center of Excellence, which the Chief Minister has now expanded to say that we will build a 2 million square foot AI kind of hub in Coimbatore. The GEO has just been issued, and we're now looking for international investors to support us. And also that we will set up tech city projects that are integrated tech cities in Chennai, in Hosur, and Coimbatore, where we will have from commercial to housing to schools to malls to all the safety services provided within the enclave, and therefore make it kind of a better quality of life and more attractive. We also do a lot of innovation in the AI space for the government itself. I was in Coimbatore about a month ago, where I spoke at the Startup Tiruvula or Festival, and I outlined how we are bringing together all the sources of data that the government owns, which, as you can imagine, in any society, the government is the largest owner of data. How we're purifying it, how we're stripping it of personal detail, and using it in our own administration to greatly improve not just the accuracy of service delivery and beneficiary selection, but also to make it human touchless as far as possible. I'm a great believer that we are going to need fewer and fewer government offices and fewer government officers to deliver services to citizens, and that will bring great improvements in the quality of life. For example, now on the e-services platform of Tamil Nadu, we can get almost 500 services directly without human intervention, without having to go to a government office. And this is all the way from life certificate, death certificate, community certificate, all the way to driving license, ration card, etc., etc. So this is the future, and we use AI a lot. It is my dream, often stated, that we should be able to deliver even the most nuanced, niche benefit programs through voice-based, self-service AI, not computer-based, not phone touch-based, but voice-based, and have no need for human intervention because the government has that much data. But once we have all that data and we can make it into a cohesive platform, then our ambition is to use that to support AI startups by having access to computing power and also to seed these startups that they can use this data set and computing power to actually do some innovation and learn and teach their models. Data is the basis for all model learning. The creation of data for the AI engines is an industry in itself, as you all know. And the state has a great leverage in terms of the total volume of data we have. In this context, we have started to provide services to startups like cloud computing, vouchers, and other kinds of services through the government. And AWS and Google and Microsoft and Oracle and all these guys have partnered with us where we will provide these services to startups who apply. We also have funding in 3 or 4 different ways. One, when I was finance minister, in our alternate investment manager, we set up Tamil Nadu ESSF, Emerging Sector Seed Fund, which is an investor into startups. We also have in the government smaller funding pools called TANSEED for early stage ideas. We have a SC/ST startup fund for oppressed communities, formerly oppressed communities, to ensure equitable access. 30 crores I allocated when I was finance minister. I'm amazed at the quality of the startups. And that section of the societal problems that they see, because each of us are shaped by our path in life. We get to see only certain things. We get to experience based on the path we walk. Then we also have, with METI, a foundation fund where we're offering 40 lakh investment into deep tech startups. So on the basis of all these, I would say that Tamil Nadu is trying to keep a pace. Sometimes competition is good, sometimes cooperation is good. I'm very happy to say that, at least in the case of tech and AI, I have just also returned from a visit to the Bangalore International Convention Center and the Bangalore Tech Festival at the invitation of my good friend, Priyank Karge. I have worked with both the current IT Minister and Industries Minister of the Telangana government, through Sridhar Babu, and his predecessor, my friend KTR. I have had long discussions with Nara Lokesh, who looks after the sector for Andhra. Of course, the Kerala IT portfolio is with the Chief Minister himself, Pinarayi Vijayan. I've been asked to speak at 2 or 3 of their conferences. So as far as the South is concerned, though from time to time on particular transactions, we may find that we compete with each other on one particular case, all of us are very clear that though we're about 25-30% of the population, we're about 50% of the GDP, and from the educated workforce ratio, we're probably higher than that. And we see this opportunity of the demographic dividend plus the shift away from China as a huge opportunity where there's going to be more than enough for all of us. We don't have to worry about which particular company goes to which state. If we play our cards right, all of us can see this kind of double-digit growth for the foreseeable future. And so we work quite collaboratively together. I have invited them down to conferences in Coimbatore, in Chennai. I have been invited to conferences in Hyderabad, in Bangalore, in Kerala. We work very well as partners in this approach. And I'm glad to note that 5 of the 10 cities of this 10-city tour have happened in South India as well, in all our states. So in this context, I want to commend NASSCOM. It is the kind of first attempt, I would say, going back to probably the 70s, 80s. How long have you been around? From the days of my friend Sam Petroda, who I've had the fortune of working with quite closely in the last few years. And you have always shown the way. I am a bit disappointed my good friend Rajesh Nambiar is not here today, but tell him I said so. And I know that NASSCOM will continue to play a pivotal role bringing together all the components of the different sectors of our industry, the government, the educational institutions, to leverage our opportunity for greater outcomes. And I definitely see this as the era of opportunity. There's going to be a great shift in the nature of work, but it's going to happen over 5 or 10 years. It's not happening, overnight. and we have a chance. And in fact, if we're thoughtful about it, the greatest shifts are going to come more like 10 or 20 years. And as I've been saying all along, we need to start rethinking the notion of education and the notion of what it is that makes human beings unique in the era of so-called artificial intelligence and automation in services. Anyway, I see a big red sign that says my time's up. So with that, I will conclude. I'll thank you for your indulgence. Thank you for inviting me. Hope you have a wonderful day today. Good morning.
This report highlights the renewed focus on IT-OT convergence as we head into the AI era, and how IoT becomes a key enabler of large-scale IT-OT integration, autonomous operations, and next-generation industrial production. It also outlines how companies can take their early steps towards Industry 5.0 through the lens of IT-OT convergence. We also request Mr. Shrikant Srinivasan to please hand over a small token of appreciation from our side to our Honorable Minister. Ms. Ketaki will also be joining Mr. Shrikant on stage. Can we keep the round of applause going, please?